Ryan Juanita here with a question for you. How much would you expect to pay for really good Dolby Atmos sound? $1,500, $2,000, maybe more? Well, until very recently, you would pay that much or a lot more to get Dolby Atmos sound in your living room. But thanks to Vizio's growing collection of Atmos soundbars, you can get it for a fraction of the price. Now, this is their latest bar, and it costs just $700. It offers 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos sound, and it might just be the best value in Atmos land. Now, if you've seen some of our other videos for Dolby Atmos soundbars like Samsung's Q90R or Sennheiser's Ambio bar, which is really big, you know that's a theme. They are hefty, they usually take up a lot of real estate on your TV console. But Vizio has really sort of micro-sized Dolby Atmos. This is their 36-inch soundbar. It's smaller than the $1,000 Vizio Atmos bar that we tried before, the 5.1.4 bar, which actually has a 46-inch soundbar. So it's sort of micro-sized, but it has the height speakers in it. It's got 3 channels in the front, a speaker for each, and passive radiators in there as well. Now, we've got the same satellites for their other systems with 2 front speakers, 1 in each, and 2 height speakers, 1 in each. And then there is the subwoofer. This is sort of a new sub for this year. It has a 6-inch sub instead of the 10-inch for the more expensive bar. So it's sort of a pared down system, but you still get all of the channels, and they're able to cut a fair amount of pricing. Now, here's something we're not seeing in some of the newer sort of premium Dolby Atmos soundbars: wires. Actually, the satellites are connected by wires which connect to the subwoofer. Now, that could limit the way that you place the different speakers in your setup, especially the sub, but really there's a lot of wire here, so if you don't mind running some wires around your house, it's pretty simple to get things going, and you can really probably place the sub just about anywhere for most rooms. And this is another way that Vizio has cut costs. Instead of creating wireless speakers, they're wired, but it works just as well, and in fact, it works better than some of the earlier wireless speakers we had heard. And besides, you still have to plug in those wireless speakers anyway, so there's still some wires involved. Now, there are plenty of features here, which I'll get to in a second, but before I move further, I will say that Vizio does need some help when it comes to the naming of these systems. This is the SB36514-G6. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, although it does tell you what you're getting. The other Atmos bar is the SB46514, and I think it's -F6, so it's not something that's very memorable. I wish that Vizio could come up with some better names, but at least it tells you what's going on anyway. Now, there's a lot of features here, and let's start with the inputs. There's a nice collection of inputs at the back of the bar, including 2 HDMI 2.0 A ports, one of which is HDMI ARC, which is the only way to connect to your TV if you want to source Atmos, and you can control power and volume with your TV remote on the bar. There's also an HDMI input here, so you can connect a gaming console or a Blu-ray player, streaming device, and it will pass through Dolby Vision and HDR10, which is important if you want to get that to the TV, of course. There's also an Ethernet port to connect to your network and an optical input, but again, you don't want to use that if you're trying to source Atmos sound. And hey, there's even a 3.5mm input. It's still there. We're seeing that go away in some bars, but this one does still have it. Now, along with those inputs, there's Wi-Fi, of course, and that is handled through the SmartCast app with Google Chromecast. There's Chromecast built into the system, and that allows you to stream to the bar over Wi-Fi, including using Spotify Connect and a lot of other apps that are Chromecast compatible. That's a nice addition, especially, again, at a bar at the $700 price point. Now, when it comes to sound decoding, there's a whole bunch of options here that the bar supports. It supports Dolby Atmos, of course, but it also supports Dolby Digital Plus, Dolby True HD, and DTS HD Master Audio, although it doesn't support DTS-X, which is sort of the DTS version of Atmos. But that's really not that big of a deal because 1, the bar can kind of fake it through virtualization, and 2, we just don't really see a lot of DTS-X out in the wild anymore. It's just not being utilized nearly as much as Dolby Atmos. Now, when it comes to the interface and the remote, it's a sort of if it ain't broke, don't fix it scenario with Vizio. Anyone who's seen pretty much any of Vizio's bars know what this thing is. It's not very many buttons, and all of the features collected in this little Casio screen right here. It's kind of a small screen, and there's a lot of things to go to when you need to fix any parameters, and you will want to go through and sort of calibrate this thing, adjust the different speakers for your room. And that's really kind of one of the biggest pains about this system, but it's also a way that Vizio is able to cut costs, if you will, so that you can get this kind of Atmos sound for so cheap. You can do all of your adjustments right here, and that includes height channels this time, which wasn't something you could do with the $1,000 5.1.4 channel bar. Now you can control the height channels, and that's really important, especially if you have high ceilings, so you can crank up those height channels and get better Atmos immersion. But yeah, everything is right here on the screen. It just takes a while to go through it. Luckily, there's also the SmartCast app, which is sort of an add-on, a complementary way to adjust things. It's also how you connect to Wi-Fi. Those controls on the remote correspond to that little beam of LEDs on the left side. It's pretty rudimentary, but it gets the job done. You can see there's 2 dots for sort of the center if you're doing any kind of balancing for stereo channels and whatnot. And then basically, that's really it. It just shows you what you need to see there. That's for volume, that's for bass level, that's for subwoofer level. Everything is on that little LED column in the left side there. It's not as advanced as we'd like it to be, but again, it does get the job done. Now, it's always fun to show Atmos to some fresh ears, and I had the ability to do that over the weekend. I had some friends in town, and they'd never heard Dolby Atmos in the home before, so I sat them down in front of the system and showed them basically the full Dolby Atmos demo suite, and frankly, they were blown away. Now, of course, it was their first Atmos experience, so that can't be taken out of the equation, but still, it's really amazing how well this Vizio bar does with the Atmos swirling effects. It can't be underestimated how important it is to have 4 height channels. You've got the 2 in the satellites, the 2 up front. That really helps create the hemispheric sound, and it's really kind of mind-blowing how much this little bar can do for $700. Now, it's not all gravy. It does well with just about everything. It gives some nice detail in the front, but one issue I do take with this bar is this guy right here. The subwoofer is just a little bit bloated, a little bit flabby. It's not as rigid and potent and sort of detailed as we expect from an Atmos bar, especially those like we were talking about earlier, the Samsung Q90R. That bar really nails it in the bass. This one has a little bit of trouble, but other than that, that's really the only issue I take with this bar. It has solid detail, sounds pretty good for music as long as you're streaming through stereo, and you can stream through Wi-Fi, so you can get even a cleaner sound. And overall, it just really packs a serious punch at a low price. Put simply, at $700, I don't think you can do better for a 5.1.4 Atmos system anywhere on the market. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you like what you've seen here, please give us a thumbs up, drop a comment in there, and I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. And there are more videos just like that one over here, including that Samsung Q90R review I talked about. We'd also love it if you'd subscribe to our page.